Ali Rizk is a security and political affairs analyst, and he's joining us live from Beirut. Thank you very much for staying with us on this very busy day of developments in Lebanon. I want to pick up on something that our correspondent Zaina was talking about, and something that the caretaker Prime Minister alluded to, which is sending Lebanese troops south of the Litani River. Is there a scenario in which Hezbollah would pull back from the border and allow Lebanese troops to take up that territory? And even if they did, do you think that that would be enough for Israel to stop these attacks?
Well, I'll start with the first part of that question. It's interesting. One very important point which was missing in Sheikh Naim Qassim's speech was the issue of the return of the northern settlers, the Israeli settlers to the north. Usually, if you recall, the late Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, he said there was no way that you'll achieve this aim via war, returning the settlers to the north. In this particular speech, in Sheikh Naim Qassim's remarks, he didn't touch on that topic in any way whatsoever. Now, if you add to that Najib Mikati's remarks, the Lebanese Prime Minister, about deploying the army, that does pose the question, is now Hezbollah more flexible? Is it willing now to withdraw those troops, to withdraw its forces, and to allow the Lebanese army to come in? Particularly, as I said, there was no mentioning of that northern settler issue and how Hezbollah will not bow down by military force in that particular perspective. So indeed, I think this is something to keep an eye on. Now, the second part of your question about...
Yeah, please continue.
Sorry. The second part of your question about the Israeli military, or Israel approving or not approving, I think this is the main sticking point. I think Israel is going to be extremely unflexible in this regard. It hasn't shown any flexibility before, and now it sees that momentum, it perceives the momentum is on its side. So it's going to be even more strict, if you would like, in imposing its own conditions, unless we see some kind of significant Israeli losses on the ground. According to Israel, the UNIFIL, the UN peacekeeping forces, haven't done their job properly regarding Hezbollah. The Israeli military also perceives the Lebanese army as being close to Hezbollah. So I think it's really unlikely that the Israelis are going to agree to such a formula.
Yeah, and certainly they seem to have momentum on their side. Is Hezbollah able to inflict the sort of military losses that you're talking about that would make Israel change its calculation? Do we know how much Hezbollah's military capabilities have been degraded by the attacks, not just over the past year, but particularly over the past couple of weeks?
Well, according to the most recent estimates, even the Israeli military sources themselves, they say that the claims about Israel destroying 50% of Hezbollah's missile and rocket arsenal are inaccurate, are an exaggeration. These were claims which were made, but they were dismissed by the Israeli military. So Hezbollah possesses, according to most estimates, between 120 to 200,000 missiles and rockets. If Israel has destroyed less than 50% of that, that means that Hezbollah still does possess significant firepower, including precision weapons, as your correspondent said. So Hezbollah does have the capability to inflict serious damage on the Israeli side. I think the calculus, the issue is how much damage do you inflict without going into that all-out war, which Israel appears to be wanting. So I think that is the test for Hezbollah. Hezbollah can't fall into that trap of allowing Israel to set the pace of the confrontation. It has navigated that successfully thus far. So I think what Hezbollah is going to try and do is going to try and play on its strengths as much as possible. But I will mention this. Israel as well, it has made some big tactical achievements. There's no doubt about that. But it's also in somewhat of a dilemma for the reason that it speaks about the north, returning the settlers to the north. And Hezbollah, as I mentioned, still does possess this significant firepower. So when the dust settles after these achievements are made, the question is going to be asked again, okay, what have you done? What have you done regarding that goal of returning the settlers? That's why Israeli opposition figures are saying, oh, now you have to go on the ground, a ground operation to achieve that goal. If they do that, that would play to the advantages of Hezbollah. Again, I go back to the point I made earlier. Is Hezbollah now more flexible regarding an arrangement for the Lebanese army to be involved, to be deployed? And will that be accepted by the Israeli side themselves? As I said, many questions which are posed, but there are significant developments on both sides, I think face big challenges.
Ali Rizk, thank you so much for your analysis on this. We really appreciate it.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.